Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Bob Louthen, the host of The Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. Pleased to have as my guest today, Louise Valentine. She's an award-winning wellness expert, a competitive athlete, a fierce military spouse. Her career is dedicated to empowering others to live a vibrant and healthy life. She's worked with professional athletes, researchers, and senior leaders throughout the U.S. and currently holds a healthcare leadership position with Vita Health. Also working to reverse her own health diagnoses, Louise refuses to let others waste time or energy trying to figure it all out. She created the Team Valentine Project.com wellness platform with a mission to help others find simple and realistic ways to make wellness work. And most recently, she published The Art of Breaking Through 5 Simple Steps to Take on Any Challenge and Tackle Self-Doubt. And I am the proud owner of this book. Louise Valentine, welcome. Thank you for stepping into the spotlight.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here today.
So I am intrigued. I love to keep it simple. Can we start with that? Talk a little bit about simple and realistic ways to make our lives easier and to improve our wellness.
Absolutely. Well, at one of the peak positions I've held in my career was a research fellow for the U.S. Army Public Health Center. So here I was in this role, and our job was to take really good health communication information and data, research, and share it with senior military leaders. And the one takeaway I had from that was if the information is not at a glance, easily digestible, simple, and realistic, we can't use it. As senior leaders, we don't have the time. And that's just a byproduct of being in a leadership role at the top is we have to optimize our time. And so my goal was to, in my career, in becoming a wellness professional, communicating effectively, to really learn how to keep it simple and realistic, so others could identify solutions, wellness solutions, and design their own solutions for themselves. Truly find what works best.
You have more initials behind your name than most people I've ever met. You've gone back to school on all of this stuff, right?
Oh my
Tell us
goodness.
a little bit about that.
Yes. So I did sprint out of the gates of undergrad, and I actually built what I would call a dream career wellness business before even finishing my bachelor's degree. And I was providing sports and medical massage therapy for the NFL, professional athletes, and I held contracts with local provider offices and healthcare systems as an exercise physiologist and wellness professional. But as every military spouse has to admit, we become we're a nomad, right? Our lifestyle, we are relocating constantly. And while my business model was sustainable for a few years, my husband was a combat aviator and he would deploy for a year at a time. So I would bounce back and forth between Fort Drum, New York and Cleveland, Ohio, where my business was based, and maintained that for 2 years in between deployments. And, we have NFL training camp. Okay, I'll go home for a couple of weeks, take care of the players. But, we had to keep relocating. And it's been a total of 9 times in 11 years. So I have continued to just a relentless pursuit of bettering myself as a professional, regardless of if I was able to find employment or not, make the most of breaks in employment, and just continue to grow and develop. And as a byproduct, I have an army of credentials behind my last name. And it's truly so that I can hit that dashboard of opportunity when we do relocate. what am I going to be today? Am I exercise physiologist, Louise? Is that what this community needs? Do they need a community health planner? Maybe I hit that button.
Yeah. Hey, I got to give a shout out to Jen Amos. Jen is a fellow friend of ours. She recommended that we get connected. She's got the Holding Down the Fort podcast. Luis, though, take me back in time. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, how you became a military spouse. Let's kind of drill down on that for a moment.
Yeah, I grew up, it's Medina County, Ohio. It's, south of Cleveland. It's fairly rural. Ironically, my husband grew up in the same county as me. We didn't know each other in high school or elementary school, but we did go to the same college together. And we did not date at that time, but I really enjoyed hanging out with the ROTC guys. We were all up exercising early in the morning. They were just a fun down to earth.
Are you a gym rat or something? Is that what you were?
Well, I've always loved exercise.
Right. Were you an athlete in high school and college?
Not a very good one.
Okay.
Honestly, I was the slowest girl on the cross country team, like the person you just clap for because you're like, ooh, she's out there doing it,
Right.
But here I am, faster than ever at after having 2 kids, just that relentless pursuit of becoming a better athlete. But it's been a long road to get there.
Okay, so and you went, when did you jump into the NFL? When did that start? And I'm curious what teams you might have been affiliated with.
Yeah, so once I got a degree in massage therapy, I did stop my undergrad degree, went back, got an associate's in massage, and then was fortunate to get some really great mentors early in my career who did help connect me to the NFL. Being in Cleveland, it was the Cleveland Browns at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was able to become a more skilled medical and sports massage therapist under the guidance of great mentors, I did expand. As my players got traded, they couldn't find that level of massage therapy care. So I'd travel with the players. If they got traded, I did work with some baseball players. If pro athletes came into town, even pro dancers, or they would word of mouth of a quality therapist spread quickly. So I worked for the Detroit Lions and other professionals that needed help.
But that's been some fascinating work. Now, you ran into some challenges of your own that you write about that have been, I would call them formative, and have kind of gotten you to where you are today. Can we share a little bit of that?
Definitely. So while I was in my research fellowship, here I was describing myself as, I'm really coming to the top of the field and becoming a true expert in wellness and health communication. Well, at that time, at age 33, I was diagnosed with osteoporosis. And
that's usually something women get, but not until 70, 80, right?
Right. And my bones had progressed to that level. And I had other health challenges in the past, but nothing quite so devastating. And I truly felt knocked off my high horse. Like, here I am designing wellness solutions, and now I have to save myself. So the art of breaking through was my journey in looking at all the obstacles that I've overcome in the past. And what is that inner dialogue that has made me unstoppable? And I was in this role where I was learning how to help share realistic and simple solutions. The goal of the book was to be super short, direct, to the point, and to help someone who is feeling that same pain that I was. What do we do when we're here facing the most incredible challenge of our life? It does not feel good. It's a dark moment. We don't have time or energy to waste. So how do we tap into that inner greatness when we need it?
You sound like you don't have a whole lot of tolerance for procrastination. Is that right? I mean, no excuses, right?
Right. Well, I do believe in giving ourselves time to really, truly feel emotion too. Because especially with facing like a devastating health diagnosis, if you don't give yourself time to process the pain, to just feel it and, be discouraged feel depression, feel anger, then we have to process that, or we won't be able to move forward with it with as much
So, so
progress.
when did you decide or discover that you were an author with a book inside of you?
I've always enjoyed writing. So I think that I just felt really called to share the simple 5-step framework. And I did not publish right away. I wrote the book years ago, but it wasn't until we were in the heart of the pandemic and my father was diagnosed with cancer and I got another diagnosis, a precancerous condition of my stomach, that I realized it's time. It's time to sit down, edit the book, and push it across the finish line to share this with others.
I have had, in my life, some diagnoses myself. And tell everybody what it sort of felt like when you got, when you're sitting there talking to the doctor, because I've kind of shared this thing with you.
Yeah, it's when you're sitting there with the doctor and they tell you, and you feel like that you've crumbled to the floor. Your world has crashed. You don't know where to start. And, I just encourage everyone in that situation to research, what their diagnosis is, all this, the different options out there for care. Because had I just listened to my doctor and taken the medication that was designed for women in their 70s and their 80s, my bones would have been building incorrectly over time. And the long-term result of that medication is fracture, which I'm trying to prevent. So I just got myself surrounded with the right healthcare professionals and really tried to determine root cause, best steps for me in my situation at my age moving forward. So it's okay to take time and to figure out what works best for you. And it might,
I found that, I had a cancer diagnosis, and the scary thing for me is that I knew that I had the diagnosis, but I didn't know what the plan was. And there is a big gap between, yes, you have this illness and here's what we're going to do about it. And the mind works on you in that period of time. The uncertainty gets expanded into all of these terrible possible outcomes, and it's really difficult to navigate your way through that. You have 5 steps in the book. Can you tease us a little bit with what we're going to find as we're reading it?
Sure. Well, I do encourage everyone to make a list of awesome things that they have already accomplished in their life as a point of reference. And it'll be a simple, quick go-to process that starts as 5 steps, but once you get it down, it can be accomplished within minutes time. And it really is customizable to any challenge that you're facing. I will provide realistic or real life examples from my life to demonstrate and illustrate how the steps can be used. But it's totally customizable. And if you start to fight any of my steps, I give you other options. I'm like, hey, so you don't like this step? Try this other thing.
Okay.
As a health coach, I know a lot of people don't like certain things. So I just try and, keep it very customizable.
And now a word about a VeteranCrowd Spotlight sponsor. Cardomax is owned and operated by former Navy SEAL Sean Matson. Cardomax has designed just the right supplements for you and is offering VeteranCrowd an exclusive offer. Buy one, get one free on your first order. Go to cardomax.com and use promo code VeteranCrowd. That's cardomax.com, helping you achieve your max. Now back to your host, Bob Loudon.
Do you have some, some stories of people that you've worked with that, jump out to you that you really feel like are examples of someone overcoming some of these things and really achieving? I know yours, but I'm curious if you've got some examples of people that have overcome some real serious issues by following these steps.
So I've had some people reach out to me. I did test the framework just with some friends, and I started to think, what are the most challenging things that that individuals face. And so I did reach out to a good friend who had recently lost her father. And I said, you know, I'm writing this book and I just want to share this framework with you. And I'd really love your feedback. Do you feel that, I can't imagine the pain you're going through right now, but does this framework, is it applicable? Do you find hope in it? Is it something that you feel others in your situation might benefit from? And she was such a great person to not experiment, but test the 5 steps on in a really truly dark and devastating moment. And she shared it with her mom, and I've had other friends who have their parents have devastating diagnoses and they share it, and around loss. And so while I don't think that it's going to solve everything, I think that hearing that the solution is applicable to some of even the most devastating of circumstances was very encouraging.
I see. Let's talk a little bit about the Team Valentine project. What is that? And when we go visit teamvalentineproject.com, what are we going to encounter?
Right. So that is my turtle shell. It is
Your
my
turtle shell. Okay.
Yes, it is a wellness platform that I can take with me wherever the Army sends us. So, but here I am with all these credentials, and I've worked across the spectrum of health and wellness, from direct patient care all the way up now into like innovative health program design. And so I'm learning wonderful tips, tricks, and tools. And I wanted a place to share that, because some days I miss direct patient care. And I know there's people out there looking for solutions, looking for good, reliable resources and information. So I have different categories like physical activity, mindset, healthy eating, fighting disease, and healthy lifestyle. And I do write wellness content as time allows. I'm a busy wellness professional now in this healthcare technology company, but I do try to impact and give back. And at the same time, I grow as a wellness professional by having a place to document what I've learned, what's effective, what's not. So.
You call it your turtle shell. That's interesting. I'm going to have to figure out what my turtle shell is. Military spouses move a ton. If you stayed in touch with and met a lot of friends in the military spouse community, and I take it you've designed your business so that you can pick it up and take it with you now, that it doesn't really matter where you are.
Yes, and that is so very true. The one thing is I do love having my own business, but I have found if I team up with the right people, we can, have a ripple effect impact on the world. So by working with others who are driven to impact in a meaningful way, me as an army of one can only do so much. But by teaming up with others, that impact is just amplified. And that's why I choose to be employed right now with a healthcare technology company, Vita Health, versus having my own business model.
Mm-hmm. Tell us just a little snippet about Vita Health. I don't want to jump in. I'm going to take you in a totally different direction.
Sure. Well, Vita Health is a member compliance company. So we are working with health plans and Medicare and Medicaid populations. So it's chronic disease management, ultimately improving member lives and saving health plans dollars, money.
Okay.
But I am currently in charge of taking our company business to consumer. So I've helped to design a solution specific to a need I experienced as a military spouse, as a caregiver to my father. I was living away from someone I loved and who needed good support in facing his diagnoses and health challenges. So we are now taking our solution nationwide. So I'm very excited about that.
Very good. Let me shift gears. I want to talk about Louise Valentine, the athlete. And the first thing I want to say is, you said at the beginning of the program in our lightning round that you had run how many half marathons while pregnant?
Yes, 74.
And how many times? Well, this is maybe getting too personal, but I mean, 74. I mean, that's like one a week, I think, if I've done my math correctly.
Yes, most. So I should,
How
I
many
should,
have you run overall? How many have you run when you weren't pregnant?
I actually don't know the total. because I have been a marathon runner as well. So there's many days where you just run the half marathon distance as a byproduct of training for a marathon. So I really truly have no idea overall.
What's the longest race you have participated in?
So when my husband was deployed, I did a ultra marathon, and that was, I think, 36 miles total.
36 miles. And about what pace per mile are you running when you're doing something like this?
So marathons, I'm down till around like the 3:15, 3:20 mark, which is, under an 8-minute mile. But
for 26 miles?
Yeah. So I don't run the marathon distance quite as often just because of health challenges. I do try to, take a whole stress inventory on my body and look at the things I'm doing in life, and sometimes running super long distance while we, mentally we'd think that would be healthy for our bodies. For my body, it's not. So I have to take that step back.
So what races are you going to run this year?
I haven't even given a thought to it based on the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess I'll probably run some here in the Columbia area in addition to maybe Philadelphia and Baltimore because they're close.
But did you run the Boston Marathon?
I did, yes.
And what did you run the Boston Marathon? What was your time?
To qualify, I ran a 3:19. And then actual Boston Marathon day was 2017. So it was ridiculously warm. I think I ran like a 3:30 something actually at that race. It was a rough day. I barely finished, in all honesty.
Yeah, look, I'm just amazed. What goes through? Do you get the runner's high when you're running? I mean, are the endorphins and all that kind of stuff kicking in for you? Is that what happens?
Yeah, I do think a lot of innovation happens when I'm running. Some of the clarity in life, it's just, that motor cortex of the brain gets stimulated when you're running. And
Parasympathetic, some terminology some of my other folks have thrown out at me. So what's the hardest part of a marathon? I'm just curious. I mean, you hit the 20, all these people talk about the 20-mile mark and all that kind of thing. What's the hardest part of it?
It's maintaining confidence in the face of uncertainty. So, which I think is, so if we can maintain confidence in the face of uncertainty, whether it's athletic performance or life, that's the key, right? Any obstacle because you don't know what's going to pop up in a marathon. You might get a bloody blister. You might bonk in terms of fueling. The weather might not agree. You might trip and, fall, and then your knees blood. There's just a lot of things that can happen that go unexpected. So how do you execute in the face of it?
I'm going back to this 74 half marathons while pregnant. And at some point you were like really pregnant on some of these things. I mean, that poor child is bouncing around. Goodness gracious. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not crossing the line here, but I'm having this image of, it's incredible. I mean, what do people say when they see somebody like you running a half marathon in that condition?
Yeah, so I did, especially with my daughter, I did run my best marathon just a couple weeks prior to getting pregnant. So I was just in a peak physical fitness state. So by running the half marathon distance, it truly, for my body at a slow pace was, that's just maintaining a baseline of fitness. It's nothing that's overexertion, I'm not exerting myself too much, with the exception of later pregnancy. But I actually was able to kickstart my labor and delivery with permission of my doctor by running. So I did run while in labor.
Oh my goodness. All right, folks. You've heard it right there.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I've got to gather my thoughts now. I just can't imagine what that must be like.
The
I
one
mean, the
thing,
mental fortitude
yeah.
alone, just to run that much, but to do it in that condition, is astounding. Are
And
there
what's
other
a
women that do this?
there's many athletes that run throughout pregnancy. And with my son, I had to stop. My hips were like dislocating. It was like there's a medically, there are cut points for sure. Every pregnancy is a little different. But one thing about running those distances was when I did go into labor, I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I thought back to all the times that me and my little buddy in my belly had run. I said, you know what? This labor and delivery, we got this. We've been teammates in this journey for so long. And that mental inner dialogue was so powerful. And my labor and delivery was, with my daughter was a beautiful experience. So
I got to tell you, this is just absolutely incredible. So what you think you got another book in mind? I mean, you said you wrote the book and didn't publish it. Most authors that I talk to, they're thinking about writing another one. Is that the
yeah,
case with you?
I think I have a lot of books in my brain,
Right.
right? Just the right point to execute and have the time to do so, and just if it fits in the world at the time. So I do. Who knows? My whole blog might turn into some sort of a book one day.
There you go. Well, it's a great way to make content. If you could go back and talk to yourself 15 years ago, what advice might you give yourself, your younger self today, if you could go back and do that? Maybe
Yeah.
redirect you a little bit, or
Hmm.
would that piece of advice be?
Yeah. So I would say that regardless of any obstacle that comes your way, you're going to come out on the other side better than ever. And the one thing your older self is going to say to your younger self when you look back is just that you would have wished you would have loved yourself a little bit more along the way.
Hmm.
So I had a lot of years where I was, struggling with anxiety, depression, self doubt. There's a reason why I'm resilient today. It's because I've been through the grinder,
Right.
I've been through the self doubt, and there's been a lot of good support along the way to get me to where I am today.
The very best advisors are the people that have kind of experienced it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Hey, is COVID a force multiplier for mental health issues? I mean, is it, are you seeing more of this need as a result of what we've been going through in the last year and a half?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a byproduct of the circumstances we're in, and then also physically. Just, my father suffered from a very difficult um, case of COVID, and he was in the
Hmm.
ICU for, almost a month. And so that rehab here after COVID, I think that there are a lot of considerations, probably after any sort of struggle with a
Hmm.
virus, COVID or not, there's just impacts on the body that are going to impact well-being, mental health as well. So I don't think we quite have a pulse on it just yet, but um, yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot going on in the world right now, and
I think the impact and the isolation has been significant, particularly on the elderly. In my case, we couldn't visit my mother, who was, very senior, and though she never got COVID, we think it contributed to her passing away. There's a lot of people out there that are struggling with the isolation that's the result of COVID, and I think that it's just triggered a lot more mental health need in the last year and a half, and so it's very important to have things like exercise and community and discussion. Uh, One final maybe question to tackle here is overcoming the stigma of talking about your problems. Can you
yes,
address that?
yes, I believe, you know, had I not shared my struggle, I would have never identified all the resources that have helped to lift me up and put me back together. Had I not shared my struggle, I wouldn't have teamed up with just the right people to remind me of my inner greatness when I doubt it in myself. And I think it's by sharing our struggle that we realize that we're okay, we're normal. And when it isn't okay, we're going to be, because somebody else has been here. The journey's not, the path forward doesn't look the same, but we're all going to make it to the light. We always do.
So how do people get in touch with and follow Louise Valentine?
Yes. Well, I have the teamvalentineproject.com website. I have, it's at Team Valentine Project, Instagram and Facebook. As a professional, I'm on LinkedIn. And then I have VitaHealth.com, and our friends and family solution is friends-and-family. So that's a caretaker solution that we're helping to launch.
You don't have to take notes on the VeteranCrowd Spotlight. We'll provide links to all of the social media handles and websites for Louise Valentine. Louise, 30 minutes has gone by. How about that, right? It happens quickly. Thank you for being our guest. I really appreciate you stepping into the spotlight.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be here.
Hey, we've been listening to Louise Valentine. She is an award-winning wellness expert and an author. I'd encourage everybody to look into getting her book, The Art of Breaking Through: 5 Simple Steps to Take on Any Challenge and Tackle Self-Doubt. We'll put links to all of these things in the show notes. You've been listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. I'll throw out an Army Bravo Zulu to you and your husband, Louise. Thanks for being on the program. And that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by VeteranCrowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.